Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham, Beyond the Booth. Welcome everybody in. Special guest tonight. I'm excited to have this guy. I talked to Coach Vann a lot during the year, but never in an environment where we can talk football. We can talk a little bit about philosophy, a lot of different subjects to cover tonight. But first, let me bring in the co-host, Mr. Phil Harris. How are you doing today? Of WQSB. Got to throw that in there too.
Well, well, I'm doing good. It's getting close to football season. I'm kind of getting a little bit anxious. I know Coach Vann feels the same way. You wonder if you're prepared for it. You wonder if the kids are prepared. And it's the time of year you kind of second guess yourself sometimes because you just want to make sure you've got enough time when the time gets here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Coach Vann, that sounds like a great first question. Why don't you start there?
Yeah, it's I'm like that every year, first game, really every game from week to week. I'm thinking I forgot to cover something and always stressing about whether we covered it enough or vice versa. But I'm really excited about the year. It's a great time of year. Love it. It's the best time of year for me personally. There's nothing like a Friday night, nothing like the feel of a Friday night. Saturdays are not the same. I can't attest for a Sunday, but Friday nights are special, special for our kids, our community. We're excited and ready for it to be here, and we're excited to kick off this week with a Jamboree and be able to get a week off to kind of fix some things that I know is going to need to be fixed. There's going to be a lot more than probably even I think, but and get some things fixed before we head into a tough non-region matchup, Sacks and get this season underway.
Phil, go ahead with your questions, please.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you wanted me to start. Well, Coach, I want to back up. I want to ask you this. When did you know you wanted to be a football coach?
Oh, man. Listen, basketball was my love for the longest. Probably up till I was a sophomore. Coach Gilbert got the job at North Mountain. Coach Gilbert had a lot to do with me wanting to be a football coach, a head football coach, especially just the impact he made on my life and being around him and seeing the impact he made on all my friends. Like it was something I knew I wanted to do. And football become, we started being successful in football at North Mountain under Coach Gilbert. And it become something I loved. I loved football. I loved Friday nights and the difference that you can make in life. And I just wanted to do it, something that I felt like I wanted to do the rest of my life after trying to play some college football. So,
Coach, before he goes on his next question, up on the screen right now is you, and I think Coach Gilbert, and someone's wearing his number 2 and his N on the side of his helmet. I bet you when you watch it, it'll bring back a bunch of memories. I was able to find a few pictures of you in high school years. So I just was remarked by how big you look in the uniform, Coach. You look like a quarterback.
Yeah, I was tall and lanky. I wish I weighed what I do now. Then I joke with the players all the time. They better be glad I didn't weigh what I do now. I think I'd still be playing. Joke with them all the time about that. But it was a lot of memories, a lot of good times, and especially with all my buddies making some history at North End, and they've continued to be successful. So,
Phil, go on. Go ahead, please, sir.
Okay, well, Coach, Coach is inspiring. I know Coach Gilbert. I mean, everybody speaks highly of Coach Gilbert. I knew him when he played in high school, broadcast a lot of his football games. I knew his family, just a super human being, and people thinks a lot of him. Who were some of the other coaches that you point to that inspired you?
Well, right when I got out of school or went to college, I played for Coach Bill Clark. He may not be able to pick me out of a lineup by any means, but I was a scout team guy at Jacksonville State for a year. The year he was there, and just watching his demeanor, how he carried himself, and how the team reacted. That was also a guy that I learned a lot from just by watching and seeing how practice worked and just trying to learn from playing for him. And then the next guy would be Don Jacobs at Scottsboro. I learned a lot of, philosophy and offensive side of the football from him and Coach Gilbert both. But I try to take a little from everybody that I've worked for, from Coach Anderson, Coach Jake, Coach Gilbert. I was with Coach Glasscock for a spring at ARAB. Coach Kirby and Coach Monroe when I was at North Mountain. I got the luxury of having Coach Monroe who helps me on Friday nights for the box for me. But just being around guys like that, taking a little bit from everyone, trying to learn stuff, and seeing the passion that they have for coaching the game of football. And that's something that I love. I enjoy, regardless of how hot it is. Like this time of year, when I step out on the field, it just feels like when I'm at home. It's like the best part of the year besides being my wife and my kid. If you gave me a place to be, it'd be up there on the football field practicing. I really enjoy that, coaching kids and trying to make a difference in players' lives. So.
Well, Coach, I mean, I know you're inspired by the kids and all, but there's something that happened. You've got a child now. How did that put life into perspective, and how did that change you as a person?
Man, not a lot of people know the story, but that was a long time coming. It took us a few years to have a child. It was tough. We had to go through the IVF process. It took a lot of prayers and a lot of prayers. And the Lord blessed us with a child. And, so thankful that He did. And it wasn't too late. He's always on time. And I'm very thankful for what the Lord's done for our family. And, I was told that when he gets here, it's just your world changes. And I really didn't know what they meant by that. I can't even explain it now, but that there's somebody else I care way more about than myself or my wife, or there's somebody there I love and added to the family, and I'd do anything for. And we're very blessed, me and my wife both, to have a child, and we hope to have more. And it's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm sure no matter what happens on a Friday night when you get to walk through the door, see that child, that everything else just kind of gets pushed to the side.
Right. Yes, another person that I know loves me, win, lose, or draw. I know after games whether I've called a really good game on offense, or whether I've put the team in the best position possible or I didn't. Win, lose, or draw, my wife's going to hold my neck when I get in, and now having somebody else that I know besides our little dog, it's going to love me no matter what happens on Friday night. So.
Yeah, well, that's always good. I've got a basset hound. It no matter how bad I feel, she loves me when I get there. It does not matter. Well, Coach, I want to ask you about this. I know you're not that much older than the kids that you coach. Do you think you're able to relate to them better because you have gone through a lot of the things they've gone through, and you're still learning and growing as a football coach?
Yeah, it's I try to require, like I said, learning from coaches I was under, the older coaches. I've taken a lot from them. It's as far as discipline and all that, it's really tough. We're really hard on them. But relating wise, one coach told me, I never mentioned it much, but I worked for him under baseball, and I learned some cultural stuff from him and culture-wise for programs. But his name was Chad Hudson, and I remember we was in a meeting one time, and he said every coach needs to just be who they are. Don't try to coach outside of who you are just because you may reach a kid that somebody else can't. And me myself, I'm disciplined, and I require a lot out of them. But at the same time, on the other end of it, I'm also a player's coach. I say that. They may not say that. They say I'm like that all the time, but I do try to be a player's coach. I always try to be sure if I got onto somebody, I'm gonna go behind it and make sure I'm gonna be positive at the end of it. But also, they know they can come to me for anything, and that's a tough question to answer. I mean, relating wise, I do think I grew up and social media was getting going good, so Whether like Coach Gilbert and Don Jacobs when they grew up, I don't think that was probably a good thing that it was. I heard them say that's probably a good thing social media was now when they come through. So
yeah, definitely so, because it's a big distraction. You have to learn to deal with it. It's probably a little bit easier for you to deal with that because they're still going to do it. It doesn't matter how much you discourage it because it's just a way of life now.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Tell us a little bit about your staff and what they mean to you on the field and off the field.
Yeah, I've got a blast with a really good staff. Bunch of good guys, and even losing some over the last few years. We got Coach Clark does the defense. Coach Ryan Clark, he just got the head softball job at Gaston State. He's still with us through this year. As DC does a really good job, very knowledgeable guy. At DBs, we got Chase Willingham. He's also a Plainview graduate. We got him over here. He does a really good job with the DBs on the back end. He's actually the head baseball coach as well. Coach Wilson came with me. He's the receivers coach. He came with me from Woodville. He actually played for me when I helped at Buckhorn under Coach Henderson. Coach Mitchell does linebackers. He also does a good job. Our entire staff, I could tell you everyone of them does a good job because they really do. Coach Lee does O-line. Justin Lee played at Jacksonville State when I was there as well. He's from Ida. You may know Lee. Remember when he played for Coach Tinker at Ida? Him and Hunter Townsend. They had that good group with third round back in, I think it was 2012, I believe, maybe 2011, something around there. But Coach Lee helps a lot with O-line. Coach Carpenter is a volunteer guy working on his degree. He played at Fort Payne under Coach Ellis. He's big with junior high along with Coach Wilson. But Coach Wilson's big time. I actually made Coach Wilson offense coordinator as one of his titles this year. He's helped more with game planning and stuff. He's not. I told him I'm gonna tell people he's on calling plays. I know he's good. If it's going good, I'm gonna tell him I'm calling him. No, he's gonna help a little bit more. He asked about when we was talking about it. He asked, "You want me to call plays?" Which he knew the answer to that. I said, "Man, I don't even think 20 years from now somebody would want to call plays for me because I'd be harder on them. I'm hard on myself, but I could imagine what I would say to somebody else that was calling offensive plays for me." But we was able to hire Coach Jeff Jackson this year from Talladega. He's from Ida originally, and was able to get him and his family up here, and he's been really good for us as well. Helps on the offensive, defensive line, and then Coach Haney, who's been here, played here for Coach Benefield. His son graduated a few years ago, but he stayed on. Really good friend of mine. He helps as well. So we've got a really good staff. Some of them do junior high as well, but really good staff that works hard, and they know them a lot. So game planning wise, they have everything in on Saturday, and they do a lot of hard work on Saturday mornings and late Friday nights and early hours on Saturday morning, get stuff ready so I can start game planning and being able to be ready for meetings on Sunday. And they do a lot of hard work, and really appreciate them. I couldn't do it without every head coach has had a great staff. Every good head coach has a great staff, and I think I have a great staff. We couldn't win without them. I promise you. So.
Well, Coach, and I understand what you're saying too. Is about letting kind of delegating the play calling, but I think as you grow as a football coach, being the head coach is hard enough. And if you can get somebody to take a little pressure off of you, you're at ease and can delegate that offensive play calling to someone else, and they kind of have an idea of what you want, but you still have some input. That has to make you a better coach.
Oh yeah, and I'm hoping we get to that point with Coach Wilson over the next few years. He's finishing up his degree. I'm hoping we want to get him hired here as soon as he finishes up. He's a really good one. We'll be lucky to keep him around. I've had him with me for as long as I've coached and been a head football coach. He's been on my staff. I hope he's on my staff until he can land a head coach's job because he's a good one. And lucky to have him and continue to put more and more on him as the years go. So.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you one more question. I'll turn it over to Randy a little bit and let him ask it to you. Last year, you get to the semifinals, lost twice to Piedmont. I'm sure you learned a lot from those losses. The expectations have to be high. There's no doubt about it. When I went to media days, Glencoe talked about Sylvania. Westbrook talked about Sylvania. Plainview talked about Sylvania. Geraldine talked about Sylvania. You know, you guys have the bullseye on your back. How does the kids deal with that, and how do you keep them focused and not looking ahead?
I think I almost got them forward that we don't have it on our back, so don't tell them that. No, we, you know, they come to work every day, and we're day by day, week by week. I know every coach said, I mean, that's a very standard answer, but that's really what we're trying to live by. We've got to control what we can control today and prepare for each game, because the bottom line is, in this region, you need to stay healthy to win football games. That's a big deal, and we've got to stay healthy. We can't control any of that, so we have to prepare every week to be the best we can be. And them younger guys have to be getting better with their technique and be ready to spell somebody if we were to have injuries, because it's going to happen. And guys got to be ready. So practice is important every week. Whether you're a backup and not getting a lot of reps, your indie time needs to be really good. Your chance to get on the field during team and stuff, you need to get better every single rep, because it matters, because you may have to step in and do something. But our kids are focused game by game, I think, and I've got them. I'm trying to keep them convinced again that we don't target on our back. We and it shouldn't be, in my opinion. We haven't beat anybody that deserved the target. You know, Piedmont's beat us the last 2 years. We hadn't even gotten a close game with them yet. Five's beat us the last 2 years. We've got to do a better job of competing in the big games. Not compete, but finding a way to win them. You know, we competed last year. We've got to make the plays, and I think we're close. But we're not there until we actually make it happen. So we have to get ready this week, Jamboree, go to Sachs, find a way to win that game, and then we'll have Piedmont at home in the first region game, which is going to be a big one, and a game that we really need to win moving forward. And I think if we win that game, the target really is on our back. But right now, I think Piedmont, our target's on. I think Piedmont's the team to beat in our region, and obviously because they wore us out the last 2 years. So I keep reminding them of stuff like that to try to keep them working, because we ain't where we need to be. We're trying to make it one game further than we did last year. The only way to do that is week by week. So,
Randy, you want to ask a few?
Hey, Coach, at media days, I got asked by a couple of the other media members, and we do talk every week, win, lose, or draw, which is one of the great pleasures we've had on River City Media, and somehow we made it work last year to describe you as a football coach. And one word came foremost, and I want to get your reaction to me. When asked about you as a coach, I referred to you as competitive. And I was like, Coach Vann could be playing playing cards, whatever he's doing, he's going to be competitive about it. Is that a fair assessment of you?
I think it's a pretty good one. My family growing up, even to this day, they get mad at me if we're playing any type of board game or something. I expect to win. I ain't in it to let anybody else win. And I'm sure over the next, as my kid grows up, my wife will probably be mad at me. I love to win. I'm going to compete to win. That's just how I was raised. And, you know, and I think our team competes. Our team's competitive. And that's always, I mean, I think that's pretty good. I'm glad you said that, because that's how I feel I am. I mean, I try to compete in everything. So.
Well, that was the first word that came to my mind when I was asked. So I thought it was appropriate. Coach, I want to ask you about a couple of quotes I've heard you say over time. One of them has stuck with me, and I've thought about it a lot. And in the data week to week we have on the Tyler Vann Show, we talk a lot about game film and what happened. But you've said the words a couple of different times that, and you said it at Media Day, I believe, that you could take the best teacher in Sylvania High School and they'd be a good football coach. Tell me and us why being able to teach and communicate is so critical to you as a coach.
Them being able to relay a message from a coach's meeting onto the field is very important, and to teach those guys on the field and relate to them is also very important, because we can go over stuff in the meeting room and stuff, but if we can't relay that message from a meeting, like even from a player to a coach to player meeting, if we can't get that relayed the correct way on the field, then it's not going to work. Like, it's not going to mesh up. So if we go over a front that we like and a fit that we like, for example, it's the offensive formation we see this week. We'll go up there on the field. They rep it in their indie groups. They go over it, and then we come together as a team, and it don't mesh up. Well, something's been miscommunicated there. So it's important to be able to teach and communicate from a meeting room into your indie group, and a lot of times it's miscommunications from adults. If that's it, believe it or not, that's how it works sometimes, and it was just a lack of communication most of the time. So, but it's important to be. I'll say that because it's a very important part of it is to be able to teach the kids the correct way.
Coach, I've heard you talk about Coach Parham, his time with you being a great educator. How did him being such a good educator influence you as a coach today?
Yeah, he a very, very intellectual human being. I'm talking about, you could have a conversation with him about anything in the world, and he would be able to have a conversation about any topic. Like, he was great about those kind of things, and just trying to learn. Like, he came, and I think he coached, junior high the year before I got here. He coached the year I got here. He was the head junior high coach, and then I moved him up to varsity the next year. And you're talking about a guy, like I said, can have a conversation about anything, any topic we'll talk about, and then we'll sit down and we'd draw up plays, and he'd draw it all up on a sheet so he could learn it. And I'm talking about he hadn't learned in a day, and he'd go out there and teach it because he knew what it took for him to learn it. He wasn't going to go out there and it'd be wrong. That's what I really loved about Coach Parham. Like, he knew that we had to meet about this stuff, and we met about it. He wrote it down. He learned it, and he knew it before he went out there and coached some kids, and that's very important to be able to. Kids pick up quick on if you're questioning yourself about something. They're smarter than people give them credit for. But just learning from Coach Parham on how he went to work every day, and we miss him. It was really hard the first day going out to fall practice. It's been hard every day, There's always things that you think about him, but the first day out to practice and looking down there at the old Grundy line group and not seeing him was tough, and we miss him. So,
Coach, yeah, and it's many people that influence you on your journey, and I'm sure that was one. Coach, Phil, I'll come back to you after this question. One thing that's always impressed me, Coach, is I kind of went on the playoff run with you last year. And you were able, and the staff too, which we've talked many times about, you coach the staff sometimes. You and the staff and the kids were able to compartmentalize week to week. And it was like, I would want to jump ahead to this game or that game or ask you about 3 weeks down the road. And you always brought it back to that week, that challenge, that game. How do you keep from Over at Media Days, I asked you about expectations, and you were like, "We don't talk about them. We're week to week. We're day to day." How do you do that in your head? Because as fans, we want to talk about, well, they're playing 5 last game of the year, but you as a coach, you really have a week to week struggle to stay focused.
Yeah, it's well, what I can tell you that helps me is I can't focus on something 2 weeks from now because I don't know who's going to be available, who's going to be healthy 2 weeks from now, and I don't. And are we going in 2 weeks from now at 1-0, 1-1, 2-0, 0-2? Like what happened?
Right.
And if I feel like I do this team an injustice when I don't focus day to day, and when I don't try to make them focus day to day, because we can't. It's like I tell them, we can't control yesterday, and we don't need to worry about controlling tomorrow. We need to worry about controlling what's taking place right now at this practice for the next 2 hours. Something we've been talking about a lot this fall camp. Just pick something that you want to get better at for 2 days. I'd pick something. It may be you want to get better at that stay up. You may want to get better at your hand placement. You may want to stay low, your pad level low. Like, what is it? Like quarterbacks, I want to lead the ball on the kicks on the 10-yard out, or lead the ball on the kicks on the corner, not on the throw a poster. Whatever it is, pick something, get better at it daily. It may be anything with steps. And then once you feel like you got it pretty good, move on, pick something else. Stop trying to get better at all this this stuff at once. Like, pick something, get better, perfect it as best you can, move on. And all of my hopes done in a little bit. I know our quarterbacks have, which I meet with them more than anybody because they're also my position group. But I feel like they've done a good job of that this camp. But like I said, I try to keep it week to week because I feel like they're day to day as well. Because if I feel like if I start talking ahead, the team will look ahead, and then we're just not. There's not a team on our schedule that we can do that to, and it not come back to bite us. So
that's awesome, Coach. I have great respect for that because as fans, it's easy to jump ahead. Last question though, real quick: did Coach Wilson have to become an Alabama fan to get the OC promotion, or are you still allowing him to root for another team?
No, he's
you get.
Still Tennessee fan.
Oh my God. Phil, you just take over from here because I've been trying to save Coach Wilson all year.
Well, Coach, I want to make a comment on what you're talking about looking ahead. I think a lot of times the media overplays that. You'll hear them on TV. Well, they're going to overlook so-and-so. I just don't think that happens. I played football, and, there's teams on the schedule you look to that are more important than others. You kind of sort of glance at them. But come Friday night, you are ready to play the opponent across from you. It don't matter what color they wear. You're just excited to get to play. Now, sometimes, mentally kids aren't there. They can't be there every night. But I don't think it's because kids look ahead. Because, they're just excited to get to play.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. And I don't think there's coaches up there that look ahead either. I don't think they should or they would. But I think it's kind of a human nature in a way to sometimes to not be able to not get as locked in. If that makes sense on a Friday night. If you think it, because kids watch film, and we have huddle, and sometimes. Yeah, I didn't do it last year, but there's been times where I try not to post a lot of film with other teams because I know how much our guys watch it. But if they think, it's kind of like a little bit of human nature to think that, they ain't as good as, as the so-and-so we played. It's kind of natural sometimes to kind of give yourself an opportunity for a little bit of a slow start, so to speak, because and then you get hit in the mouth and you realize, oh, crap, I better fuck up, let's go. And I do think that happens, because it's easy for players to do that. But a lot of times not a lack of preparation or a coach talking about it, but sometimes them kids still let it happen. I remember I was at North Sun Mountain and Coach Gill, we went over to Victor Christian and they were 0 and something, I think. I just remember because we got chewed out at halftime bad, but we went over there. We started warming up. There was no music or anything. And we dressed in a dugout or maybe in a trailer. I don't remember because there was renovations and stuff, I think. And, you know, it was just one of them where we knew we were good. We lost one game, lost to 5. And it was a close game at halftime. I remember just chewed out. We ended up winning by a good bit. But it was like the whole team, though, as a team. Coach Gilbert told us better be ready to play, you know. But, you know, just kind of like his kids, we just thought, man, we just want to show up. We'll be able to handle it. And we just wasn't ready. In the second half, though, we was able to do better. But I think that happens. But it wasn't from, like I said, I don't think it wasn't from coach's perspective or us knowing, hey, we need to prepare. It was just kind of we thought we could just roll in and do it. So.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you this, and I know as a young coach, I mean, you're always motivated because you love the experience with the kids and teaching them about the game of football, also about the game of life. But one thing I always ask coaches is probably one of your favorite things is when you watch kids out on the field and they actually get it, that light comes on. Does that mean a lot to you?
Yes. It's, I enjoy a kid that, especially the best is when you have a freshman struggle and you tell them, hey, freshman year's the toughest, you know. And then it's like you're seeing them grow week in, week out at practice. Like last year, we had a kid that ended up having to get thrown in the fire. And it was awesome to see that line start to turn on each week and be something different. He's getting better at just by getting on the field. But I enjoy that. I also enjoy watching kids be successful, like as a team, and just like last year, seeing them kids that them players that you try to get them to work hard and you know, tell them that hard work's gonna pay off, and to see them be successful and what they've worked for and bought into work. I really love that part of the job is because you tell them all off season, like you got to put in the work to be successful. Does that mean you're going to be successful? Just because you put in all the hard, there's a lot of kids that work to tell off that may not win 3 games, but that don't mean that they ain't successful in their own way. Like I tell them all the time, like I tell coaches all the time. I think coaches of the year sometimes are the coaches that's supposed to win 1 game end up winning 3. Now them kids work their tail off, and that successful year is 3 wins. That's really good. But just work your tail off and be the best that you can be, and to see that work out like last year, us end up making it to winning a 3rd round home game against the DeKalb County rival, and see our kids celebrate and stuff like that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I know. I think people get lost in that winning and losing thing. You know, sometimes there's more winners on a kid on a 1-win team than there is in a 10-win team, because those kids get up every day and come to practice knowing they're probably not going to win, but they're going to give it their all.
Right. I agree. And that's that's why I love football. And it teaches you so much. So.
Yeah, definitely so. Well, Coach, I know you want these kids to think football and you get ready for the season. But how do you give them an out? What do you encourage them to do to kind of sort of get away from football for a little while? Maybe hang out with each other off the field. What do you do to encourage that?
Well, when I grew up, I had Sunday meetings that I had to go to when I was a player. I don't require them to do anything on Sunday with me. We don't watch film on Sunday. We actually watch film on Mondays. So I try to give them that weekend every week. Like, go do something Thursday after we'll do walkthrough before school on Thursday morning. Like, when you leave there, go. Like, I know some of our linemen on Thursdays, they go with coach and eat out and hang out with each other. But just get away and be sure you do hang out with your team. And then which this team that we have for the last few years, they're best friends with each other. They're all the time together. So, I try to encourage it by just give them that weekend, 2 days to rest, recover, get your mind off of it. Watch game film because we're going to go back over it Monday. But just recover and enjoy the weekend. we'll get back to it on Monday.
Yeah, Randy, anything you want to add?
Hey, Coach, I want to talk a little bit about your journey to Sylvania. I know leaving Woodville, and you were there for 1 year, and you've talked about it a couple of different times, and Miss Hannah even mentioned it when we had her on the show. Phil, we have his wife on if he gets a 15-yard penalty. That's the rule.
You're not ever going to let him live that down.
No, I'm not. I'm not. But it was tough. I imagine being a first-year coach and then leaving a group you just started with.
Yes, I love those kids down there, and I loved my time down there, even though it was a short period of time. Especially those seniors. I had a lot of seniors that year. Jackson Peak was really good at quarterback, and even the guys that didn't get their name in the paper, like Damian Reed, and we had Carlos Torres, and we had Tucker Province. I mean, there was a bunch of kids. Tucker, and they just off the top, Brett Berger. I can sit here and think about them. I just looked up there. I still have their picture here in my office. The first senior group I had, but that was just at times I feel bad for them in a way, just because I've learned so much over the last 3 years, just being a head football coach in 3 years. I've learned so much. I did them injustice in some ways. Like, I wish I'd have been better. I feel like I was good in some parts, but sometimes I just feel like I handle things the wrong way. Like, I've learned to grow up every year. I try to. And sometimes I think back, man, I wish I wouldn't have handled this, a situation a certain way, or done. I just ran them too much, stuff like that. Just being young and, I'll be honest, dumb. Sometimes head football coach, I wish I could have went back and fixed it for them. But I love those seniors and that group, and I think about, like I said, they're up in my office right here on the top shelf. And sometimes I'm just sitting there. I look up when I'm thinking, and they'll come to my mind, and the memories I had down there. I really did enjoy Woodville. I learned a lot there. I know they still have a good group down there and got a good coach in there helping, so we're working with them.
Well, Coach, I want to add to that. Coach Benefield, I heard him say one time that he said, had I been a better coach, we would have won more games in Sylvania. He said, I left a lot of wins on the field knowing what I know now.
Yeah, that's me. I wish I try. Like, there's things I learn, and especially trying to build a culture as well, and just day-to-day stuff sometimes, and then on the field stuff. But just I'll learn and try to be better yearly. And you look back and say, man, I wish I'd have been, even with Brody Smith's group just a couple years ago, there's things I wish I'd have done better, different. I mean, that was my second year as a head football coach, and I was nowhere where I need to be. I'm not where I need to be now, but I'm trying to learn and be better for it, year in, year out. So, I mean, even these kids, I'll look back and go, man, I wish I'd have been better in certain phases. So, just trying to learn. I think that if like Coach Monroe said one time, I remember it was actually at North Sun Mountain. I was a player. I was on the knee in the huddle, and I was listening, and he said the second that you let complacency creep in, the second you don't get any better. And that stuck with me. So why be complacent? If you tell me I won't get any better if I get complacent, by George, I'm never getting complacent, because if you want to be the best, then you need to find something to be better at. So that's what I try to do. So.
Well, and I think you're right there. I mean, I don't think you did those kids an injustice. They're by no means, but that's what makes you a good football coach, is growing and learning. And it makes you better. It makes your kids in the future better. But, I'm sure those players, still thought a lot of you, win, lose, or draw. It didn't matter because they were learning with you.
Yeah. I'm looking at them now, like Brett Berger and some of them. They even come to some of our games. I love that group, man. So,
Coach, you kind of took my next question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. last year we did the first year of the show together, and we were big on let's have the seniors on. And we had a group, you had a group of 4 seniors last year. That's kind of their leadership ability and them stepping up was kind of the unsung story of that football team to me. Tell us a little bit about those 4 seniors and then the group you have this year.
Yeah, there's a small group of seniors. Actually started out at 8 in the spring, or even 9, I think. Then it dwindled down to those 4, and just lost them along the way. But those 4 did a really good job. Blade Thomas, Brent Kittle, Griffin Haygood, Ryan Koger was the 4, and they showed up. They had been in the, they was there the first year, knew what we expected. Braden moved in, but he picked up pretty quick, and they were able to lead those younger guys. They showed up ready to work every day. We're going to miss them. It's like I tell you all the time when we talk together, like I'm not one of those coaches that are ready to see a senior group go. I haven't been ready yet. Maybe one day there'll be a group that I'm ready to see go. I haven't had one yet. So I hate seeing our kids go because not just as, players, but also as I like being around them. I like seeing them every day, making sure they're good and checking on them. But they're 4 good ones. And we're going to miss them. Our team's going to miss them. This year we have 11 and 11 seniors that we're going to allow. And, 3 of them's voted captains: Ashton Cooley, Zach Anderson. And if I wouldn't sit there and he would have said that, I'd have told you the 3rd one. Oh, my goodness. What blank. Ashton Cooley, Zach Anderson, and was Jackson Smith went with us too.
Yeah, Jackson was there with you.
I can't believe I never forgot that.
That's what?
Bad.
I'm brain locking too. It was Ashton, Zach, Jackson, and 21.
Leo, my goodness, he's gonna be mad. Leo Kirby's gonna be mad. I told somebody that was watching film on our scrimmage. I said, that may be the most valuable player on both sides of the ball right there. Because of what he does for us at line, what he does for us at linebacker. He's going to be mad I left him out. Those 3 captains, it was unanimous, like I said the other day at Media Days, they were voted captains. I mean, they were, it wasn't even close. So their team looks up to those 3 guys, and we're relying on those 3 guys to lead us, and they've done a really good job through camp, and I expect them to continue to do what they've been doing the rest of the way. So just hope they stay healthy.
Last question, Phil, if you've got anything to follow up, we'll let Coach get out of here. Coach, I just want to ask you, last year, and it's a little about last year, this year, and moving forward. Last year, you had a special situation in the backfield with 22 and 2, and how 22 was able to kind of mentor 2. You're going to have a similar situation this year with 5 and 2. Are they going to have the same freedom down the road to sub in, know when they're going in, or are you going to try to manage that a little different this year?
I'm actually going to manage it a little bit different. Trying to keep 5 out from back there and kind of keep him more in the slot. I put him back there a little bit and Gun together when they're back there together. Gun, Tomahawk, stuff like that. We've been working some 2-back stuff. But also 15, Travis Owens, who's our Mike. There's a freshman last year with sophomores, had a really good camp running the football. Really good at 2 scrimmages. He's running the ball well. He's a downhill runner, gets behind his pads, runs the ball hard. So is 2, but 2 will still put some moves on and find a way to get more yards. But 15, he's like that wing T fullback by George. Give him belly, give him Travelers row. He's behind his pads, done a really good job. That's the guy that's more than likely going to split some time with 2 a little bit. I'm going to manage it more than I did last year. Just trying to keep 2 off the defensive side, rest him up so he can tote the ball with them on offense. So that's the plan going into the year now. And as you know, that may change when they have something happen. But as of right now, that's what we're going with, and that's the plan moving forward.
And 5 on that defensive side of the football. I almost hate to see 5 on the offensive side of the football because he's one of those tone setters along with 51 on that defensive side. So if you can keep the ball out of 5's hands, it gives him a little less chance to get hurt too. And last year, you know, when 5 got hurt earlier, it'd be nice to have him all year this year.
Yeah, it hurt us on the back end, especially in pass coverage, even then. But what people don't know, you check the total, tackle total 2 weeks after he went out Piedmont. So he went out against Piedmont week 2. So we had Sag's Piedmont game. He played the entire Piedmont game until we took him out late before. So going into the Pisgah week, he was still a leading tackler on the team after 4 games, and he only played 2. I mean, that's the kid we missed, and that's the difference he makes on that side of the ball. And he's aggressive, so we're excited to have him back. And we hope, again, he's a senior. More than anything, you don't want to see a senior miss any time that last year. You know, you're only guaranteed 10. And we talk about how special Friday nights are. It's like, I don't like to see anybody hurt on any team, and especially if they're a senior. Because I put myself back when I was a senior. I was blessed enough not to miss a game, but it would hurt to miss a game because you're not guaranteed any more than 10. So hopefully we can keep all our guys healthy, especially our older guys, seniors.
That's great, Coach. And just a quick plug here. I think we're going to do it on Tuesday night. We haven't really discussed it yet, but once a week, Taylor Vann Show, Howie Chaney, myself, Coach Vann. Coach Vann lets us look at the game film, and we have pretty good conversation about what happens from week to week. We like to talk about the week before and a little bit about the week coming up, and we'll start that after the North Jackson week, and it'll give us a week to get it right, Coach. As you take a week to correct mistakes, we'll have a week to correct them too.
I'm excited to get that going, and I do appreciate what all y'all do.
I love it. Phil, if you got any questions, fire them away.
I've got one more question for you, Coach. And Randy kind of brought this up. He touched on your wife just a little bit, but I want to ask you about this because, you know, I was at the spring football game, Valley Head spring football game, and Angie, Charles Robert Hammond's wife, walked up to me and the quarterback club president and said, you know, she goes, I'm glad this is getting started. I miss football. Okay, my wife on Friday night, she's a football widow because of the scoreboard show. She don't see me much at all. She goes to games by herself. I don't get to go to any of them. And I know your wife, it has to be important, but, you know, they still support us. I said, it has to be important that your wife gets involved in this because that takes a lot of the pressure off knowing she's taking care of things at home, and that's one less thing you have to worry about, and you can concentrate on your kids during football season.
Yeah, I'm blessed in that aspect to be married to her. I'm married to her because she grew up Coach's daughter under Coach Vest. Her dad, Tracy Vest, was at North San. He's a basketball coach. Nonetheless, still missed time seeing him. You know, so she knew what I wanted to do when we got married, and she's a sports fanatic as well. She loves athletics, and you know, I'm blessed to have her. She's excited. I mean, she's really loud on Friday night. Sometimes probably too loud if she hears somebody say something. I've been trying to tell her she needs to stop that. I told her one time, growing up, we went to Tuscaloosa and watched Bama a lot growing up. And, I remember hearing people screaming Saban. And I told her, I said, listen, people screaming Saban. I don't know a lot of people screaming Coach Vann. If there's people crazy enough, they're going to scream at Saban on Saturday. They're going to scream at Tyler Vann on Friday night. So I try to tell her just to let it go. But you know how wives are, women are. And she loves me, and she's trying to think she's done a better job of letting stuff go, though. But no, I'm thankful for her and the time that she gives up. All of our coaches' wives give up for us, and we're blessed, really.
Yeah, I have to nudge my wife every once in a while. I say, honey, watch the game. She'll get tore up at the officiating or something of that nature. And I said, honey, watch the game. She gets so mad at me. I said, honey, it don't matter what the referee's calls are. If we're good enough, we're going to win. I said, so don't worry about that stuff. Watch the game. Oh, she just gets so mad at me when I do that. But that's just the way it is. I mean, you're out there on the field. Yeah, you're going to have some bad calls, but, it's just something you just have to deal with.
Let me tell you, Hannah Vann can come up with some of the best one-liners in sports, being the daughter of a coach and the wife of a coach. She can come off some pretty good one-liners every now and then about other fans too. It cracks me up.
Yeah.
Coach, thank you for the time. I'll let you get off from here and go visit with your lovely wife and your baby boy and have some family time. Now, appreciate you coming to see us, and we'll be on the Tyler Vann show starting week after next, and we'll go for 15 weeks, Coach Vann.
I do appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me on. Appreciate what y'all do. So
appreciate you, Coach.
I enjoyed the conversation, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Coach. Phil, all class. When I'm lucky, I get to talk to Coach Vann every week that way, and Coach Vann, it's not what he does with us here at River City Media. It's not easy. I've seen him get on and talk about a game when it wasn't easy to get on and talk about a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I understand. Yeah. But it comes in time. I mean, you want to win every game. You're young and you want to win every game. But there comes a time. I know I've been in broadcasting for a long time, and after a while, you just kind of you made mistakes. Things didn't happen good. Just move on to the next one.
All right, Phil.
Because there's always tomorrow. You're gonna have a better day.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna run a real quick commercial, Phil, and I'm gonna disconnect from you and reconnect. And everybody watching this, come back in about 2 minutes. We're going to talk about the Sequatchie Valley Jamboree, which Phil Harris made a trip up to Alabama to watch with me. It was a lot of good football, Phil, and I'm sure we got a lot to share about it.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed the trip. It was a lot of fun. Kind of something different for me, but it was fun.
Back in 90 seconds. Hey, Phil, I'm going to call you and reconnect. My phone's not good right now. All right.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll call you right back.
All right. Hello?
Yeah, I think we're better. Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham back. QB1. Phil, I ran a commercial. I have a commercial for RiverCity-Media that's baseball cards, and it just shows all these classic baseball cards. And if you know Randall, you know I love those baseball cards from the 50s and 60s. But it's a lot of fun. But let's get over to where we need to be tonight, and let's talk a little bit about. We saw several teams, and we could go through, kind of talk about them a little bit. We're going to end up at Sequatchie and Bledsoe. But let's just go through the teams real quick. I'm going to lead us off with the interview I did with Coach D from Howard High School, who was just a nice man. And I loved what he said. And then we'll get a little bit into his team after this interview plays. Hey, we're here with a special guest, Coach D from Howard High School. First thing, Coach, I'm standing here behind your young men. They've got some great names on the back of their jerseys, front of their jerseys. Where did that come from, and what is that for?
Just what we try to do is, I got the idea from Army maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And what we try to do is just try to speak positivity into our kids' minds and just kind of give them different words to live by that'll be positive for them to execute on the field and just doing things in life, man. So that's what type of things that we try to teach our kids is just to try to not always just be good in athletics, but we try to transfer this thing into a life lessons for them and just to know that those things, that those words are powerful and they can live by some of those words that they have.
Absolutely. I think that's great. It caught my attention as soon as I walked up. Now, you're playing over here in the Sequatchie Jamboree. First year we've had you in a while. What do you think playing? You're going to see Ray County and Grundy County. Well, you see different sizes of schools. What kind of look does that give you preparing for the season?
Well, I think it's going to be an awesome thing. I think it's going to be fun to come up here and do a little something different than normal. I think our guys are excited about it, just to kind of get away from home, from just the rigmarole of just people in the stands and stuff. I think it's going to help us get a little more focused and everything, and just seeing people that they normally know in the stands and may be a distraction. So we're up here to try to prove a point, try to see how our guys fit against the people up in the Sequatchie Valley. It's great football up here, and we just want to kind of get involved and do something different, and we're excited about it.
And Howard's known for physical football, and you'll find that kind of brand up here. And it's a good challenge for the kids to get out and play some physical football.
Right.
Your season starts early and often, and you are off to go. So how has your summer camp been?
Well, our summer camp has been pretty good. Like I said, our numbers are not pretty, high like we would like them to be, but we have a lot of guys here that's willing to, and they've sold out. They've bought into some of the things that we're trying to teach on our team, and those guys have been consistent, the ones that are here. And like I said, and that's the guys we're going to trust, and that's the guys we're going to keep, and we're going to hang our hat on when it's time to get out on the field.
That's absolutely great. Coach, tell us just a little something about your football team for somebody that's not seen you in the last 2 years. Tell us something about your team.
Well, we're gonna be the old traditional Howard High School. We have our speed that we're gonna try to use a lot of the times. Here we're gonna have a lot of guys that we have some size. So we have some guys with some good size, and then also we have some guys that's fast. So we're just gonna try to just play to the best of our ability and just kind of do things that works well for us. And that's what we're going to concentrate. We're going to just concentrate on us, and hopefully it ends up in some productive showing out on the field.
Coach D, well, we have a podcast for the Tri-State football. It focuses on Chattanooga. Coach Rivers at Hickson.
Okay,
we were talking to Coach Rivers. He had great things to say about you. Sounded like you had a mutual friendship there with Coach Rivers.
Yeah. Coach Rivers is a good guy.
Yeah.
I was very excited for him when he got the job at Hickson. Man, he's been in the trenches. He's been working for a long time. He's very deserving of that position that he's on there at Hickson. We competed against them a couple of times in 7-on-7 this summer.
Yeah.
And their guys, he got those guys going.
Yes, sir.
They're moving in the right direction, and I'm excited for him and his season this year, and I know he's the same way with me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you over here at the Jamboree. I think it's a big thrill to everybody to have you over here, and we appreciate you coming, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Coach D. Hey, we're here with a special guest, Coach D. Phil, Coach D, future guest. Matter of fact, they have agreed to appear on and give us a 45 minutes maybe next week or the week after. But all class, but he's dealing with some issues on the football team. Low numbers, good athletes, maybe not what he needs up front to play 5A football.
Yeah, he's in a tough. Aren't they 4A?
Yeah, well, they moved up to the same region as Ray County.
Oh, did they? They're up to 5A?
Yeah.
When I said they're very athletic, very athletic, but what was hard to tell about them is they had mental errors. And that comes from a youth football team. Probably more than likely, he's probably got a lot of youth on that team because that's what happens. I know on a 4th and 1 that led to a touchdown drive, everybody up front was disciplined, but they walked up the safety and the outside linebacker to come put pressure on the 4th and 1, and those two jumped off sides. And it gave a first down. And I can't remember who it was they were playing at the time, but they drove and scored in that drive, and that play kind of set the tone because it seemed like a lot of the night that Howard kind of kicked himself in the foot. But now they moved the football, very athletic when they could get people out in the open field. And of course, one thing that disadvantaged them that I think would have been good in a live game, you would have had special teams. They weren't allowed to return kicks, kickoffs, and I think that will be a major part of their them in ball games because a lot of times they're going to be faster than a lot of teams they play.
Exactly. And Coach D even kind of brought that up in a little bit when we're talking. Phil, let's look at that district real fast because it's a new district, but it's an old district. It's kind of the rebirth of the 5A Chattanooga district. So it's going to be Howard Tech, which, if you don't know, Howard's now a magnet school. Ray County, East Hamilton, Walker Valley, McMinn County, and Ottawa is their new district. And I think that plays well for a team we'll talk about here in a few minutes. Ray County, not in the district with Central and Knox Catholic, and getting kind of out on their own a little bit, away back to the Chattanooga area.
Yeah, that's good. We've lost that, with Baylor and McCallie going to mostly playing private schools. A lot of the public schools don't play them anymore. I remember, they've always been private schools, but teams still played them. But now it's got to the point where no teams in the Chattanooga area will play them anymore.
Right.
And that's kind of disheartening because I think you lost. Because I remember in junior high school, you had county and city schools. We were in the county when I was at Red Bank. And we played Baylor and McCallie. They were in the city system, but we played Baylor and McCallie. Of course, a lot of times they were better than us. But at that time when I played at Red Bank, we were pretty good. But yeah, I think we've lost those traditional rivals around the Chattanooga areas because I always love to see, East Ridge playing Red Bank and Howard playing Ottawa and Howard playing Tyner and people like that. Because I remember when I was in school up there, Ottawa and Tyner I think they were a 2A school at that time when we only had 3 and 4As, I think. But Howard and Ottawa would always play, and usually Howard won, and they would be your district champion. And at that time, only one team went to the playoffs. But, Howard walked the walk back then, and they've had traditionally a strong football program. But, what I like about what's happening with Howard is a lot of stuff's going on around them. They've got a new stadium, a new track. There's a lot of development going on around the area. And maybe that will help that football program gain some more interest because maybe some folks will move in and take pride in that community down there that's been kind of running down for years.
Well,
the future looks bright for Howard, but I just love it that it's back to that more traditional district. I think the kids of Howard will benefit from that too.
Well, it's been remade, and like Soddy Daisy is now a bigger school, and Red Bank is a much smaller school. So those traditionals, for the Chattanooga area are not alive. Red Bank's 4A, and I think Soddy Daisy's 6A. But you take that 5A and you add East Hamilton to it, and Howard, it's a magnet school now. So if they start having success, Phil, kids will go there because, one, it's a technical school and it's got a great education. And like you said, a new football field.
It'll be for academics.
Right. Yeah. All right, let's move ahead. Probably one of the teams that struggled the worst, and I've been in Sequatchie County several years now and covered that district. But Grundy County has been a very, very hard place for coaches. And I think it's going to be again. They're a little better, decently coached, just don't have the athletes some of the other teams in the area does.
Yeah, but they look pretty good. I mean, of course, their JV team, I mean, we didn't know it wasn't their varsity when they first played the first game.
Yeah.
But the second game, their first unit looked pretty good to me. They looked like they were well coached. They knew what they were doing. And, hopefully that will lead to improvement with that football program. But, it's so hard to build a program when you've got so many traditionally strong schools that are around you. I mean, It's hard to compete with Sequatchie County and Bledsoe County and South Pittsburgh and Marion County. everybody can't be good. Somebody's got to be at the bottom. And, and it's a shame, Whitwell had a state championship, about 4 years ago?
Yep.
And they fell way down the list. So, I guess they just have to pick their poison and maybe every couple of 3 years come up with a good football team and see what happens. But, it just seems like traditionally, they can't maintain, I guess is what we're saying.
And as much as I'll credit the TSSAA for the making of this 5A Chattanooga district, they have really Sequatchie and Grundy are in the same district, but the rest of that district is Nashville, basically. It's going to be Watertown, Giles County. We've got a couple of 3-hour trips to play district games, Phil, and that makes
Is Fayetteville a district game?
Yes, it is now.
It is?
Yes.
They're one of the top programs.
Yeah. Well, and Giles County lost Alcoa last year,
Yeah.
So in the quarterfinals. So Grundy has a road to hold. Let's jump up to that Whitwell team. Maybe I was almost excited for Whitwell, which is a 1A school, and they play in the same 1A district as the Beast at South Pittsburgh. And for the folks that was at Finley Stadium, we'll talk about that a little bit here in a minute. That they said South Pittsburgh is going to be the favorite in the state, and I think on paper they should be. But I put in my little review, if Whitwell's playing football in the second week of the playoffs, I'm not going to be shocked, Phil.
Yeah, they're going. But the thing is, they're going to go as far as McDougal, number 4, carries them. He's a good, solid, strong quarterback. I know he made a couple of he's about 6'2", about 190. He plays heavier.
Yeah.
And on defense, he'll hit you. So I think if he can stay healthy, that team's got the potential to win some football games. Their numbers was good. Looking over on the sideline, I don't know if they dressed their JV or what. I'm sure they did. But it looked like the numbers was good. So, things may be looking up for them finally. It was amazing how you win the 1A state championship one year, and then the bottom falls out. It's just amazing how that happened to them. But I was excited for them. I thought they really competed well.
They had and we've talked about it on here, and I've talked on it even the Coach Vann show. In 1A football, they had 10 seniors that year in 1A, and all 10 of them were exceptional football players. Even had one sign at Jacksonville State, a couple sign at smaller schools. When you can get a group like that together in 1A, that's a powerful group. And if folks don't realize 1A football, we're not talking about hundreds of people in the high school. We're talking about hundreds of people in the school from kindergarten to the second grade or the 12th grade. So these schools are really super small, Phil.
Yeah, well, it's just like when I played my senior year, we had 24 on the roster, 12 were seniors.
Yeah.
So, we were senior-dominated football team. We had a few role players that were some of the junior and sophomore classes, but we were senior-dominated and a very veteran group. And a lot of the kids, too, had failed or been held back that I played on the team with. I think 9 of the 12 were in that predicament. So there was a lot of maturity there, and I'm sure that's what Whitwell had during their senior year. Oh,
that was a great football team. I actually got to see the second South Pittsburgh Whitwell game. It was something. Now let's move up on the road just a little bit, Phil, and a team that coming into the year they had lost their run back one in Severs, but I was so impressed with Bledsoe County and Coach Tabor and that group. It just great group of coaches, Phil. And when you watch Bledsoe County on the field, you just can tell they're well coached.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're going to miss Severs. There's no doubt about it. But it's next man up. When you got a program like theirs that have been successful, it's just next man up. You just kind of move on. You have to. Teams that are counting heavily on one individual kid are going to fail. So, the coach has to go back, revamp, say, hey, it's next man up. We're going to be fine. And they believe that because the team's been successful in the past. So they can move on from that. My senior year, we lost 2 key players during the year. But the next man just stepped up, and that's what you have to have if you're going to be successful. And the kids, when they walk out on that field, they don't worry about those things. They're just trying to do their job up front on both sides of the ball, and well-coached teams are going to recover from that. So Bledsoe County's, it probably will hurt them a little bit early, but they'll adjust. They'll do things a little bit differently, but they'll be fine.
I thought the quarter between Ray County and Bledsoe was one of the best quarters of the whole Jamboree field.
Yeah, it was. Bledsoe County moved the ball well. Ray County was kind of sitting on their heels as Bledsoe County got in that wing tee and took it right down the field and scored. And I thought, well, Ray County, are they going to be able to stop anybody? But then they came back and scored real quick. And then when their defense went back out on the field, they adjusted. They walked people up because they're not used to seeing the wing tee. You could tell. But they walked people up and adjusted to what Bledsoe County was doing to them and was able to shut down the Bledsoe County offense for the rest of the quarter.
I was able to get with Coach Pemberton from Ray County and talk to him about, Phil, most of this area goes to the 3-day Jamboree at Findlay. And I wanted to ask Coach Pemberton why he chooses to go to Sequatchie County. And I really thought he had a great answer. I want to play that now.
Okay.
We always enjoy coming over here. Great facility. They always do a great job of hospitality. It's a heck of a venue to play in. Our kids look forward to it every year, and felt like we did okay. Bledsoe's a very good wing tee football team. They're hard to defend. We didn't work on them but about a half a day, so they did. We knew they were going to do a good job on offense. I'm really proud of us how we answered back on offense. I think when we got it back after they scored, we scored in 2 plays, got it in the end zone, put ourselves in a little bit of jeopardy with a missed extra point, but then I liked our 2-minute drill, getting it down there in field goal range for our kicker to knock it through. But, Bledsoe's a good-looking football team.
Great-looking football team. Your team looked more physical tonight to me from last year.
Well, we were young last year. Yes. We got about all of them back, and they're continuing to get stronger and stronger and bigger and faster, so we're really pleased with them to this point, and hopefully we can continue to get better.
Glad to have you here. Welcome to be here anytime.
Thank you, guys.
Bill, I thought he was as happy as any coach post Jamboree, coming off a 2-8 year at Ray County. Expectations are not 2-8 at Ray County, and I felt like he felt like his football team played well.
Yeah, well, I think probably what pleased him more than anything, he knows that it was a 5A versus a 3A. He knows that, but the thing is when they got down 7-0, it didn't faze them. They came right back and scored, and that's probably something he didn't see last year. They probably, when that kind of thing happened, heads went down. 2-8 football teams, that happens to. You've got to have resolve. You've got to bounce back. And they came right down and scored, and that's probably what he got out of that game is how the kids responded. Because after that, you saw them on the sidelines. Heads came up, they were excited, and they had fun the rest of the quarter. And what a difference a year makes. And I know he probably sensed that. He probably sensed that in the kids around them, that they were excited instead of putting their heads down and distraught for the rest of the football game, because it was probably lonely and it was tough going through a 2-8 year, and now he's optimistic, and the kids will feed off of that.
Phil, I'm not sure that Coach Pemberton and Coach D both mentioned they wanted to get their kids away from maybe the spotlight to play this scrimmage. Coach D in particularly was like getting out of town, getting away from Chattanooga. He thought coming over to Sequatchie County, and that's a beautiful facility. If people haven't been to Sequatchie County, it's got a 2-year-old field turf in it. Everything's very, very nice. I think it gave them some anonymity being over there and let them just play football and not worry about who was in the stands.
Yeah, definitely so. And, that'll get them ready. It's like making a road trip. And that's good for the kids to make that road trip, take that bus ride, even if it's a short bus ride. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's still to get everybody together, get outside of the home stomping grounds, and kind of build a little togetherness, kind of like a camp.
Yeah.
Build a little togetherness, all ride together, have some success, meet with each other, and then make that ride back, and then feel good about yourself. That's a building block for that football program.
Absolutely. Now, Phil, going on to the homestand Sequatchie County Indians, who played a JV quarter and one varsity quarter, coming in, replacing an all-state player at quarterback last year, Peyton Campbell, who was all-state at free safety, but still played quarterback for 4 years. Sam Evans, I thought played well. Coach Mack stayed generic, but the quarterback play was everybody's $1 million question going into that Jamboree.
Yeah, I think it was. I think he did well. I know his dad was running the clock, I think.
Yeah.
And talked about where in practice they have moved the ball well, but when you get down around the goal line, something happens. It just seems like something happens. Of course, that's maturity in a football team. But, we saw that in the game with Whitwell. They got up 3-0, but they had a second down and about 9 from, say, the 15-yard line. Yep. And the quarterback threw one down into the end zone, and the receiver got the defensive back turned around, and he broke to the outside. But when he broke to the outside, he lost his footing, and the ball went right through his hands. Had he not lost his footing, that was a touchdown. And I think that's what he was pointing to, the kind of things that happen to you, just kind of sort of what you would call dumb luck.
Yeah.
And they ended up with 3 instead of 7. And that's the kind of things they're going to have to correct. And I think they will. And the maturity level, of course, they're going to have to grow up fast because playing Bledsoe County the very first game. But I was very impressed with Sequatchie County's defense because Whitwell moved the ball in their other game. Whitwell had all kind of problems getting into any kind of rhythm whatsoever.
4 sacks by Harrison Smith on defense. Also a very workmanlike turnout by the linebacker crew. But really, Harrison may have been the star of the whole Jamboree. And I guarantee you Bledsoe is going to figure out and have somebody doubling him most of the night from that defensive end side. The defense was for Jamboree, I thought they were very aggressive from Sequatchie County.
Yeah, I think they were, and that's a good base to build off of because a lot of times if you're good defensively, if you can keep your team in a football game till the offense finds its identity, and once you have a new quarterback, you have to find an identity, and that's what Sequatchie County is looking for is an identity. But if that defense keeps things in perspective and are able to do their job, the offense will eventually find itself. And they will get rolling, and that will make this a complete football team. But it's just going to take time. The more downs you play, the better you're going to get.
Phil, when I go into this, I'm a little biased, but I told someone today that Baylor McCauley, South Pittsburgh Marion, who's not currently playing, maybe Saudi Daisy Red Bank, but this is a top 3 rival in the Chattanooga area. Bledsoe, Sequatchie, game 1. What do you think of the philosophy of Coach McIntyre and Coach Tabor? And I've interviewed both, and they said that last year they played game 5, and both teams had a 2-week hangover. I think both teams went I think Sequatchie went 1-1, while Bledsoe went 0-2 after beating Sequatchie last year. What do you think of them saying, let's move it to the first game of the year, let's get it over with before we get into our district play?
I think that's not a bad idea because sometimes you put too much into one game, and that happens a lot of times because you got to take one game at a time. One can't be more than another, but it's a community thing. The community's put a lot into it, and it's hard to keep the kids focused on, hey, this is just another game. We don't want this loss to cost us another loss because that happens a lot.
Yeah.
A team will get beat, say, and this is just for instance, if Sequatchie County beats Bledsoe County, if you're Coach Tabor, you don't want to start 0-2 because you lost to Sequatchie County. That's the last thing you want to happen. So you want to play that game, move on to the next one, because it's for a trophy, and you've got 9 more games to play. So it probably is to get it moved to the first game of the year to kind of take the pressure off that. That way you get excited, get ready for that first game, and then you get ready for the rest of the season.
Well, and Phil, it doesn't get any easier for Sequatchie County. They come out of the Bledsoe County game, and 2 of their next 3 games are South Pittsburgh and Marion County. And when we talk about it, that it's truly a bastion of community football. And while Bledsoe Sequatchie might be the biggest rivalry, don't think these kids don't want to go down to South Pittsburgh and win, or have Marion come into town and win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're definitely right. And that's the last thing you want to happen if you're Sequatchie County. You start out 0-3, but you can't worry about that. You just got to take one at a time, get the first one out of the way, and then go to game 2. Because it's a long season. And, you can lose 2 of the first 3 and still be a great football team.
Absolutely. Now, Phil, in Alabama, we got week 0 coming up, and it's going to be 1 week before, or is it 2 weeks before you have live games?
We have, it'll be Friday week. Now, some of the teams that didn't play a spring game or didn't have spring practice will play a Jamboree game, and that will be probably, a lot of them will be this week. I know Scottsboro plays Cherokee County Thursday. North Jackson, Sylvania plays. There's somebody else playing on Thursday. Section plays somebody Thursday down here. So those are just Jamboree games because they didn't play a spring game. Next week is week 0. Some will still be playing Jamboree games, but a lot of teams will play this first week, and they'll have an open week later in the year. So we'll start on the 25th.
Well, Phil, not to put you on, and I don't want you to give us permission or a prediction, but what do you think? And by the way, week 1, Friday night, 2 for Ray County at Saudi Daisy. So that's a big rivalry too. So a couple of huge games. Give me a couple of keys after not knowing everything about the teams, but seeing a quarter from both of them. Give me one key for Bledsoe and one for Sequatchie you think going into the game.
Well, I think really and truly, if Sequatchie County is going to win the football game, it's going to be controlled by their defense because it's difficult to stop the wing T, and you can see where Bledsoe County can cause you mismatches. They're really balanced with their offense and can cause you a lot of problems. So the Sequatchie County defense is going to be the key in that game. On the other side, I think it's a stalemate between Bledsoe's offense and defense, between Bledsoe's defense and Sequatchie County's offense. Like I was telling you, if Sequatchie County can find their identity, I believe Sequatchie County's got a real good chance. But I still say the key factor for Sequatchie County is how well their defense plays.
I think so. I think it needs, and of course I'm going to be the homer here. It takes a good game, not a great game from Sam Evans, and it takes a good to great defensive effort for Sequatchie to get out of there with a W. Being at home, big in this rivalry too, and the Indians get the Warriors at home in front of about I would estimate it'll be a crowd between 3,000 and 3,500 people in a city of 6,000 people, Phil. So if you don't think high school football means anything, you've never been to Plainview on a Saturday or a Friday when Sylvania's in town, or you've never been to South Pittsburgh when Marion's in town, or South Pittsburgh when North Jackson's in town. High school rivalry still means something these days.
Oh, they definitely do. Of course, this is kind of cliche, but of course that's Sequatchie and Bledsoe County. It's who makes the lesser states. Least states. Turnovers are going to be the biggest factor in the game.
All right, Phil, I want to give one shout out. Hickson, quarterback Finch, good kid. Everybody talks about him. He shattered his ankle in the Jamboree, missing the year, puts Hickson under the gun, Phil, trying to find a quarterback right here before the first game of the year. Heck of a challenge, but sophomore will be back for a lot of football. And great families from Dunlap. He plays at Hickson now. I just want to give them a shout out and tell them we're praying and we believe in and healthy recovery and a speedy recovery back to the field.
Yeah, he'll bounce back. He's a young man, and he'll be out there to support his football team. The football team's got to move on. They won some games last year. They can, they've got to pick up the pieces and move ahead. So they've got to believe in the coaching staff. They got to believe in themselves, of course. And they're going to miss you. There's no doubt about it. But you can't change your goals. You got to, you still got to try to reach for the stars. No matter who's back there at quarterback, because, it'll be somebody you're going to have to block and tackle for, or block for, to make things happen, because, they still got skilled people out on the outside to make plays. You're just going to have a different guy behind center. And it's a shame, and I hate it for them, because, you hate for kids to go down in a game that really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is,
Phil, we want to tell everybody, too, to join us next week. We'll have our normal. We're going to continue to have guests. But you know what? We're going to talk about a couple of key games in the Chattanooga area next week. Probably talk a little bit about that Bledsoe Sequatchie game. Probably talk a little bit about the Ray Saudi Daisy game. But we'll continue what we do. We're just going to add some game situations. And if so-and-so wins, they clinch the district. We really want to be people's spot to come for information on high school football in the tri-state area.
Yeah, of course, we do want to highlight the big games, that's for sure.
Sure.
It's going to be impossible for us to cover everybody, but we want to highlight the big games, talk about them a little bit. Because if we go owe it to them, I guess we kind of sort of jump on the bandwagon of the winner, so to speak.
Yep, and of course down in North Georgia, Heritage and North Ringo, probably the game of the year down in North Georgia, week 1, this Friday night. Up here we talked about Ray County Saudi plus Bledsoe Sequatchie, but there's quite a few games going on. And when we get to that South Pittsburgh North Jackson game, I really think we really need to highlight it a little bit. Maybe that's the week we get a couple of coaches on from those schools.
Yeah, because there probably won't be a lot of fans around to watch that. What do you think?
No, maybe a few thousand, maybe at the max.
Yeah, I know when Coach Hollis of North Jackson talks about that game, it just really sort of excites me. That's one of those special games they play. It's a non-region game. It really don't mean anything other than it's community versus community. But it's an exciting time for both communities.
Remember down at Media Days, they asked the players what they did for fun. And the first words was, well, we went up to South Pittsburgh to the quarry and swim a lot. And you think about it, it might mean crossing a state line to the Alabama High School Association and the TSSAA. But these kids grow up seeing each other every day, know each other every day. Probably half of them's got a girlfriend at South Pittsburgh or the other way around. And while they may not be in the same district, same state, that's a rivalry football game.
Yeah, I wish we could see more of that but the way the contracts fall, but they've been able to get that worked out, and that's been good because that's a big money game.
I think Coach McIntyre at Sequatchie County is from Limestone County, and he's talked about it too. Be nice to be able to go even into the Huntsville area and play somebody every now and then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, if they came down in this area, it would draw crowds,
Yeah, I'd love
to play somebody out of state because it would be somebody that nobody's familiar with. They just love to see that where you play somebody out of state. Every once in a while, Fort Payne will play somebody over in Georgia, like our Murgy. They play Chattooga. And it's been pretty good, but you'd like to see a more seasoned, a lot better matchup.
I'd love to see 5 South Pittsburgh on a field someday, or Plainview and Marion County. It's definitely something that down the road I'd love to see. Love to be part of it. So, Phil,
it would be fun.
We had a great show tonight. I enjoyed Coach Vann. Coach Vann's all class. Don't forget, like, smash, follow us here. Coach Tyler Vann's here every single week. Good, bad, indifferent, and no matter what music Coach Wilson plays, which is the other sore spot I don't bring up. You can't bring up Coach Wilson and his music choice, Phil. But Coach Vann's got a bright future and still a very, very young coach.
Yeah, definitely so. He talked about how he's learning to be a coach, and he is. I understand exactly where he's coming from. But, that's the process of being a head football coach is you have to learn, and if you're not learning, you're going backwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're, I feel like we kind of hit our coach talked about you got to get better on your off week. We ain't had an off week, but I feel like this show kind of formatted better than we have before. So I'm going to end on a high note and say I enjoyed this show and enjoyed talking with you. Enjoyed Coach Vann. Any final words from you, Mr. Harris?
Well, I enjoyed it also. We'll do it again sometime.
Make sure you go to church somewhere Sunday. Get out Friday night if you're in Tennessee and watch a football game. And college football is coming quick.
Yeah, support these kids.
Absolutely support the kids. For Rendell Cunningham, QB1, Phil Harris, the scoreboard guru of WQSB, this is Beyond the Booth.